Strength for runners, cycle 1, session 2. We're going to look at a bit of static holds through the split squat, which is great for single leg work, but also getting the right muscles activated. We're also going to look at doing some abduction work, so working the muscles on the outside of the thigh and the glutes, which again, really important for stabilizing our knee and our hip when we run. And then again, a little bit of core work through some halos and some side planks. So starting off with the warm-up, the first thing we're going to do is some 90-90 rolls. So for this one now, remember what we're looking for is we want one leg out to the front at 90 degrees and then one leg out to the side at 90 degrees. So we've got this knee coming straight out to the front, 90-degree bend at the leg, other knee going out to the side, sort of 90 degrees from my torso, and then again, that 90-degree bend. So that's the start position that we should be looking for. All right, you may already feel a little bit of a stretch through the hips as you're doing this. Ideally, you want to be able to come and support yourself upright as possible, but if you need to, like I was just then, you can put a hand down to support you if it's too intense, okay? From there then, what we're looking to do is we're looking to lift both of the knees up. So as we do that, we're gonna roll from one side of our glutes to the other, coming across into that same position, but now with the legs reversed. So now this knee's coming out the front, this one's coming out the side. So the key is we're trying to keep as upright as we can to really isolate those hips, that ball and socket joint. However, again, if that's too intense or you struggle to be able to maintain upright, you can, as I said before, put hands behind you and lift the knees and roll through. But the key is as you do that, still try and maintain as upright torso as you can. If you lean back too much, you're not necessarily gonna get as much out of this stretch, okay? So just alternating sides, rolling through, whether that's supported or unsupported, and you're gonna go for 10 per side on those, so 20 reps. Then from there, we're gonna go into our single leg glute bridge. So for this one now, lying on the back, feet about hip width apart. All right, and then first thing we're gonna do is tuck the pelvis under, lift the hips, find that position where we can feel the glutes working but not the lower back. Then all we're going to do now is bring one leg out so that the knees are next to each other whilst keeping that tuck, and then lower back down. So now we're just focusing on that tuck position. We've got used to what it felt like through the two-footed glute bridge. We're maintaining that now as we do the single leg glute bridge. So up, pause, and down. Make sure again, like I said, we keep that tuck. We don't arch the lower back at the top. Keep that pelvis nice and square and the knees next to each other. And we're gonna go for 15 per side on those, okay? Then from there, going into our squat to stands. So for this one, we're gonna set up into our squat stance. So feet should be around shoulder width apart with the toes pointing out slightly, sort of 20, 30 degrees. We're gonna bend forward, grab the toes, keep the legs as straight as we can. If you can't touch your toes, go as far as you can until you find that limit, and then bend the knees just enough to get to the toes so you still get a good stretch. Pull yourself into the bottom of the squat. So drop the hips, lift the chest. Try and keep the arms on the insides of the knees like I'm doing here, and your feet flat on the floor, and then stand. So bend, squat, and then stand. And you're gonna go for 10 reps on that. Then to finish off, we're gonna do a little bit of a core activation exercise, which is the bear hold. So from this, we need to be on the hands and knees, hands under shoulders, the knees under the hips, and just a gentle tuck on the lower back so we're not overly arching like this. Then all you're gonna do is curl the toes under, push your hands and your toes through the floor, and lift the knees just off the ground, and hold. And you're just gonna hold that for 20 seconds. So really pressing through the floor to get those shoulder blades working, and obviously driving those toes through the ground as well to feel it through the quads and the hips. So just a 20-second hold on that. So 90-90 rolls, 10 per side, then into single leg glute bridges, 15 per side, then into your squat to stand for 10, and then into that bear hold for 20 seconds. One round through, so do all the movements back to back, focusing on quality, not speed. Okay. So going into the main session, first two movements we've got are split squat isometric hold, and then some side lying abductions. So split squat isometric hold, super simple. All we're gonna do is set ourselves up into that split squat. So take a big step forward. So front foot is pointing straight ahead and is flat. Back foot is just on the toes, on the ball of the big toe and little toe. Then we're just going to drop our hips and knees straight down. So we're not pushing the weight forward like this. We're going to go straight down. So in the bottom, you can see this knee is directly above my ankle. Okay, so we want that vertical shin on that front leg. So make sure you're really on top of that when you do this one. If the knee comes too far forward, we're going to put a lot more stress through the joint, which we don't want for this particular exercise. So set yourself up, and if you find that the knee is going over the toes, take a slightly wider stance, or just really focus on dropping this back knee and letting it bend as you go down to the floor. So you're going to lower that down, knee is just off the ground, and you're going to hold. Really focusing on big toe, little toe and heel into the floor, and keeping that nice upright torso. You're going to hold that for 10 to 20 seconds per side. So knee is just off the ground, so you've got that 90-90 position as you just saw there. Hold that 10 to 20 seconds per leg, really focusing on that grip on that big toe, little toe and heel on that front foot, okay? Then from there, you're going to go into your side lying leg lifts. So again, we need a mini band for this. So the way this one's going to work, you're now going to place that band around your ankles, coming onto the side, so lying right onto the side, and then what you want to do is whatever you want with the upper body is as comfortable, but then with the leg, the top leg, you want it to be slightly behind the front leg, the bottom leg. So you want a little bit of tension straight away by pushing it slightly behind. You can see now that that's put the band under tension as I've done that. And then as I go into my leg lift, I want to make sure I stay behind that bottom leg. So not over the top like this. We want to be just behind and then up. So you can see my leg stays just behind as I'm lifting it up and down. We want a little pause at the top, hold, and then back. So really feeling that down the outside of the thigh, in the glute. You shouldn't feel it in your lower back. So again, don't go to that point of height or lift the leg too high where you start to feel your pelvis rotate too much, okay? And you're going to go for 15 per side on those. So a 10 to 20 second hold on your split squat isometrics, and then 15 per side on those side lying abductions. Again, really focusing on control on those and keeping that little pause at the top to really feel those glute and abductor muscles on the hips working. From there then, we're going to go into some tall kneeling halos and some side planks. So both are real good core exercises, but work in slightly different ways. So the tall kneeling halo is really good for posture and shoulder blade health as well as working the core. And then the side plank, obviously for those obliques, which again, help with that lateral flexion and stability of the pelvis. So for the halos, what we want is a light kettlebell or a little weight plate or something. Ideally, just want an object that's quite easy to move around the head, not something that's big and cumbersome and makes it awkward to move. Then you're going to go into the tall kneeling stance. So you want your knees together and you want your torso completely upright with the glutes engaged, but not arching the lower back. So from the side, that looks like this. So you can see I'm not leaning forward, not massively leaning back to arch my back. I'm focusing on squeezing the glutes and just being generally upright through the torso. Then from there, taking my object, I'm going to hold it in front of the head. I'm going to lift one elbow up as I then tip the object upside down to bring it around the back of my head, and then do the opposite to bring it back to the start. So look, for example, this direction as I'm going to my left, my right elbow is going to come up, left elbow is going to go down to turn the kettlebell upside down. Once it's around the back of my head, now we'll do the opposite. So right elbow is going to go down, left elbow is going to come up to give me the space to get it back around. Same in the opposite direction. And all the while making sure we don't let the hips creep forward or the torso to start leaning backwards. And we ideally want to keep it as close to the head as we can and minimize the head moving around the object, but make sure the object moves around the head instead, okay? So you're gonna go for 6 to 8 per side. So 6 to 8 one way and then 6 to 8 the other way. Like I said, doesn't need to be super heavy, that one, but something that is a little bit challenging in terms of the weight, just so we actually get some strength through our shoulder blade muscles that are moving those shoulder blades up and down as we go through the different elements of that rotation. So that's your halos, 6 to 8 per side on those. Then into your side plank. So again, remember we want good setup on these. So elbow should be directly beneath the shoulder. Then we want both legs in a straight line, Also a nice straight line from the foot all the way up to the shoulder. So we make sure that the legs aren't slightly behind or slightly in front. Then all we're going to do, feet stacked on top of each other, push the elbow, push the feet through the floor to lift the hips, make sure that this shoulder doesn't roll forward like this. So rest the arm on top of the thighs and focus on pushing through the ground. If you want, you can lift it up, put it on the back of the head. The key is we don't let that shoulder roll through. If that's too much, we can bend the legs to 90 degrees. So again, just make sure we've still got a straight line all the way up through the torso, from the knees to the shoulder. And then again, feet behind the knees, push the knees and the elbow through, and then lift the hips and hold that, okay? And we're looking for 30 to 60 seconds per side on that one. So halos, 6 to 8 per side, and then your side plank, 30 to 60 seconds per side. And again, we're going for 3 rounds on those with a sort of 30 to 60 second rest between rounds, okay? Have a go at those, see how you get on. Any questions, just give me a shout.